Welcome to Collections of Cinema.
Hey everybody,
Hi, everybody.
welcome back to a new episode of Collections of Cinema with me, Woifi,
And me, Dani.
this is Danielle.
Dani.
This is the first episode in a new year because the last episode we recorded on the 31st of December. And as you can see, I have a bald spot. No, I did not. I cut my hair.
I mean, it's not bald. It's like,
It's very short.
is that what they call it? It's like a crew cut? Is that what it's
I
called?
don't know.
I think it's called a crew cut.
And also something new, we have a TV now here that's playing Hot Rod the movie in a
On a loop.
constant loop. Don't ask why.
And he's being serious. That's actually not a joke. It's literally playing Hot Rod. And right now it is the scene where he's initiating.
Isla Fisher needs to be initiated. He's like, whoa, Denise, can't just be, I mean, there's a thing you have to do. It's really hard. Yeah, okay. We're not getting distracted by that. That's just what's happening. And also Bean, our guest, is here too.
He's actually chilling.
Let's see if he has some
Beanisms.
opinions.
Beanians.
On the movie. Today we're talking about, because it was a suggestion of our listener,
Frank.
Die Reifeprüfung, which means the graduation, which does not translate because it's the graduate. It's beautiful. I love those paper covers, or whatever they call in English. In German, it's Schuber. I really like that.
Sleeves. We would call it a sleeve.
Yeah, it's a paper sleeve because it kind of gives it this nice feel.
Like clean look.
It's a new 4K restoration of the movie for the 50th anniversary because that was 2017. And that movie came out, if you can calculate, 1967, which is fucking nuts because the movie is still fucking great.
Bean.
The movie was directed by Mike Nichols. Mike Nichols, very well known. Closer, Charlie Wilson's War was his last movie. The Birdcage, Wolf, Working Girl, Heartburn, The Fortune, Day of the Dolphin, Catch-22, yeah, and The Graduate. Yeah,
Yep.
He had a great career, and sadly he passed away already in 2014. The Graduate. It came out in 1967. It had a budget of $3 million, which is nuts. I don't know what that would...
But that's a lot for 1967, isn't it?
For a comedy, probably. Wait, let me... how does that dollar calculator...
You look that up while I... it's essentially, if you have not seen The Graduate, is about a college graduate? College graduate.
No, he's about to go to college.
No, he's a college graduate.
After earning his bachelor's degrees, I'm sorry, yeah.
He is kind of in like this love triangle between his older lover. We would call her an older lover. She's not old, but she's older than he is.
28 million.
And his lover's daughter.
Right.
It's like a weird love triangle between the three of them.
Right. So back to so $3 million budget, which would translate to 28 million, which is actually a lot for a comedy. Box office was 104.9 million, which is fucking nuts. So the movie made a fucking fortune. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it cost $3 million, then it surpassed its costs. Yeah.
Yeah, like by...
Yeah. Well, it's still a lot.
Insane.
But, yeah.
So Dustin Hoffman is the main actor, Anne Bancroft, Buck Henry, Catherine Ross. Just to mention a few, I mean, probably most of you are not familiar with those people, but Dustin Hoffman is probably the most still well-known actor of those of that cast. Yeah, and you already started with the plot. Yeah, so essentially he's a bachelor's degree what is it? Graduate, right? And he returns to his parents' home in Pasadena, California. And during his graduation party, Mrs. Robinson, the wife, of his father's law partner ask him to drive her home, and so she kind of makes a move on him a little bit, more or less.
She definitely makes a move.
She tries to seduce him, and then she changes her mind, but then he invites Mrs. Robinson to a hotel where he registers under the surname Gladstone, and that where it kind of starts to be like a fling, kind of. But at the same time, he kind of falls for the daughter.
Yep.
Which makes things more difficult, I would say.
Yep. Yeah. The weird thing is that like on IMDb, it categorizes it as a coming of age, and
it is a little bit of a coming of age.
But how? I feel like he's too old for it to be a coming of age movie.
That there is no age cap technically. It's about growing. It's about changing, growing, coming from like this one thing of life to another one. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
And he comes back to his family home after, because he doesn't know what to do with his life. And at the end of the movie, he kind of knows. He kind of found the direction again. And that's what the coming of age. Sure, it's not your typical coming of age movie where it's about like a teenager or something.
Yeah.
But I would categorize it as that.
I wouldn't personally, but
yeah. So the movie, I mean, honestly, if you have not seen The Graduate, what the hell are you doing with your life? To be honest, I don't think it's the greatest movie ever made. It's not, but
it's good.
It's very good still. It's very relevant still, and it's so iconic because of a lot of scenes, because of the pop culture references by other things.
The soundtrack alone.
And the soundtrack. Let's get to the soundtrack quick.
That is what makes it a classic.
So Paul Simon and Dave Grusin. Dave Grusin made the score of the movie, and Paul Simon and Garfunkel made the songs, so the soundtrack to the movie. So if you don't know what a soundtrack or a score is, so the score is typically the music to the scene, to the things that happen, and the soundtrack is typically just a song picked for a certain scene or for a certain moment. So usually the soundtrack is a song out of like pop cultural significance at that time, at the moment. For example, if the movie is played in the 80s, you pick a pop song usually from that era.
Yeah.
And Paul Simon and Garfunkel wrote an
I like
album.
that you're not saying Garfunkel's first name because you don't know
Art.
it. There you go.
The thing is, I want to say Simon and Garfunkel because that's how they were then. No. They wrote an album for the movie, and that album kind of got its own iconic step on pop culture references. Like this album is known without the movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's known because of the movie. Because
the funny thing is, I feel like there are people who know the song "Here's to You, Mrs. Robinson,"
and have no
idea that it's
written for
The Graduate, and that her name is Mrs. Robinson.
And that again brings us to, for example, American Pie. American Pie is technically, the Stifler's mom thing is a direct reference to that movie.
Yeah.
And the song. Here comes. What is it here?
Here's to you,
Mrs. Robinson. As Mrs.
I don't know if that's what the song is called.
Mrs. Robinson. This is the song title. That movie is played during the sex scenes in the American Pie series. So, that alone.
If you know the movie The Graduate, it's an obvious nod because it's almost one for one. Like they have a little bit of a conversation that's pretty much one for one from The Graduate. Yeah. But if you don't know, obviously The Graduate, it's kind of it's just a cool reference.
So the film boosted the profile of folk rock duo Simon and Garfunkel. Originally, Nichols and Osteen used their existing song, like The Sound of Silence, merely as a pacing device for the editing, until Nichols decided that this substitution original music would not be effective and decided to include them on the soundtrack, and an unusual move at the time. So 1967, usually you only did a score. Mm-hmm. There was not a soundtrack, a typical soundtrack. So that alone was very unusual for the time being. And the thing is, you can see it, you can feel it kind of, because first of all, most of the songs were written for the movie, but still, you can kind of, for the age of the movie, can kind of feel how significant the soundtrack feels to the movie. It's not just, we picked this song because it was famous at the time or important at the time. But no, we made this song, or we picked this song because of the movie, or it was made for the movie. Yeah. Yeah. So you can listen to the soundtrack obviously everywhere you can listen to music, and it's a great soundtrack. But I feel like in combination with the movie, it even gets better. Yeah. Let's talk about some scenes, like the first scene where he comes home, where he lands with the plane and then goes through LAX.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene where he just stands on the escalator. It's not an escalator.
It's the moving walkway.
The moving walkway. And it's just the side, a side shot of him, of a profile. It's not a profile, but it's like a wide shot of him going on that. What is it again? Moving walkway.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's what it's actually called, but that's what I would call it.
I think people know what we reference to. And he just passes those images basically, and it's a very iconic shot, and it's been replicated in so many films. One of them is Jackie Brown, for example, at the beginning, where she's a stewardess and she leaves LAX, and it's the same. It's essentially the same shot. And that's just one. The other one being the pool scene. He puts the goggles on, like his dad, like got him the diving stuff,
the diving suit.
And he puts it on, and all of a sudden the voices, everything's super mumbled, and he can't really understand anything anymore. And then he jumps into the pool, and then Sound of Silence starts playing. And a direct reference, for example, to that is, do you want to say it? You want to say the scene?
I mean, it's an iconic Will Ferrell scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best Will Ferrell scenes.
Is it in what?
No, it's not Wedding
Crashers.
It's Frank the Tank. The high school. It's not high school. It's
the one. Fuck, what is that movie called? It's gonna drive me nuts. You're my boy, Blue.
Yeah. Wait.
Sorry, guys. That's horrible. We should know that. It's one of my favorite comedies.
It's one of the best Will Ferrell movies. I mean, if you like Will Ferrell movies.
But it's the scene where he basically gets hit with a tranq dart, or he shoots himself in the neck with a tranquilizer dart.
Yeah, he shoots himself
at a kid's birthday party, and then gets like obviously all in a haze and starts like running or like wobbling towards the pool, falls in,
and he shoves his kid aside and stuff.
He shoves the kid aside.
And it's like POV. It's so funny.
Yeah, and when he falls into the pool, that song starts playing, and it's
really
hysterical.
funny. And he's just like in the pool, like sinking down, and then just like basically not moving anymore. I can't find the fucking movie title right now. What the fuck is happening?
I'll find it super quickly.
What the fuck is happening? Isn't it just high school? Isn't it high school?
No,
it's not high school. Fuck. Old school.
Thank you, Old School.
Fuck me. Fuck me sideways. Wait, what the fuck? Okay, so Old School, yeah.
Sorry, guys.
So, but we also have to talk about the cultural impact of the movie, kind of, because it's 1967, so still, very tight ass people, very conservative, and then you see a movie where this high school, this bachelor degree of what's his age, 21 or something, 22,
21, something like that. Yeah.
He has an affair with this grown-up woman who is like double his age.
I think she has to be in her 40s, I guess, because her daughter's the same age as he is. So I would assume she's in her 40s. We looked it up,
I think, once, how old they were, and they weren't that massive. It wasn't that a massive. I think she was in her 30s. The actors
or the characters?
Yeah, the actors.
And the actors were super close in age.
Yeah. She was like in her 30s, and he was like in mid-20s or something, or in her 20s, something like that. But yeah, that alone was massive for a time like that. kind of propelled that movie to cult status pretty fast. I mean, the movie made them a
Oh,
fortune.
that's what we looked up. Sorry, that's what we looked up. So the actress who played Mrs. Robinson was 35 at the time of filming. And she's the mother of 27-year-old Catherine Ross.
Yeah. Right.
So her daughter is only a few years younger than she is.
Right. I have a couple of more pop culture references, like Simpsons, Family Guy, The Office, in the episode Golden Ticket. Wayne's World 2 has a scene that is a direct reference. Roseanne, the player, the George Michael song from 1992, Too Funky, features a clip. Woody Harrelson in Kingpin, the movie. There's a lag frame shot that's basically taken out of the film. Rumor Has It, Rob Reiner movie. 500 Days of Summer features a scene which the protagonist Tom, which the graduate with his then girlfriend Summer. Yeah, so he watches The Graduate, there's so many things. And then the movie alone, I mean, was nominated for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Oscars. So Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography. So the best, like the top tier Oscars. And Best Director was Mike Nichols. He won for that movie. British Academy Film Awards won 5 times, which is nuts. So it's crazy how much accolades that movie gathered. Accolades. And the film is listed in the 1001 movies you must see before you die. And I totally agree. I think it's one of those movies where you watch it and then you all of a sudden understand, oh shit, I've seen this thing that is a direct reference to that movie. I've seen this thing that, and that's kind of the cool thing about that movie to this day and age. Let's get into the production things because there are some interesting aspects. So Dustin Hoffman was cast as Liebkind in the Mel Brooks film The Producers, but before filming began, Hoffman begged Brooks to let him go audition for The Graduate, and when Dustin Hoffman auditioned for the role of Benjamin, he was just short of his 30th birthday of the filming of time. He was then asked to perform a love scene with Ross, having previously never done one, and believed that, as he said later, a girl like Ross would never go for a guy like me in a million years. Ross agreed, believing that Hoffman looked about 3 feet tall, so unkempt, this is going to be a disaster. And producer Joseph E. Levine later admitted that he first believed that Hoffman was one of the messenger boys, despite or perhaps because of Hoffman's awkwardness. Nichols chose him for the film, and that's how he got out of The Producers, which is crazy.
I have kind of another funny to go along with that. When Dustin Hoffman showed up at the producer Justin E. Levine's office for a casting audition or an interview, Levine mistook him for a window cleaner.
I just said that, yeah.
So Hoffman, in character, cleaned a window.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's funny. Harrison Ford also auditioned for the role of Benjamin Bedrock, but he was turned down.
Interesting.
Which is kind of interesting. Burt Ward was...
Especially because he was so massive at that time. That's crazy.
No.
Sure he was.
1967, he was not massive.
67.
There was not even Star Wars.
Star Wars was 70s.
77. Burt Ward was informally offered Hoffman's role, but was already committed to the role of Robin in the Batman television series, which is kind of funny. Jack Nicholson, Steve McQueen, Anthony Perkins, Warren Beatty, George Pepper, George Hamilton, Keir Dolan, Brandon DeWilde, and Michael Parks were also considered for the role of Benjamin Bedrock. Wait, that's crazy. Ronald Reagan was considered for the part of Benjamin's father, which eventually went to William Daniels. Nichols cast Gene Hackman as Mr. Robinson, but he was later fired after a few days of rehearsal. Oh, I did not know that he was replaced. And Hackman would later say being fired from that film still hurt him. Oh, that's crazy.
No. Hey, what are you doing? Stop it.
That's crazy.
Hey, he's eating your plant.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. And the cinematography, the cinematographer was Robert Surtees. He was massive. He did like Ben-Hur, for example. He was like this massive Hollywood cinematographer, and I mean, you can see the cinematography is it's again, it's the imagery of that movie is being referenced still to that day because it's so significant and important in movie culture and movie history. Something else you want to add to that?
I mean, this is today very problematic.
Yeah.
During rehearsals of Dustin Hoffman and Anne Bancroft's first encounter in the hotel room, Bancroft did not know that Hoffman was going to grab her breast.
Oh.
Hoffman decided to do it because it reminded him of schoolboys trying to nonchalantly grab girls' breasts in the hall by pretending to put their jackets on.
Oh, my.
When Hoffman did it, director Mike Nichols began laughing loudly. Hoffman began to laugh as well, so rather than stop the scene, he turned away and walked to the wall. Hoffman banged his head on the wall trying to stop laughing, and Nichols thought it was so funny it stayed in the finished film. So that's the actual scene, and she didn't know that he was going to do that.
Oh, that's problematic.
And at that time, it wasn't problematic. I mean, it still was problematic, but it wasn't seen as problematic.
Right.
And
That's
I like
crazy.
it's crazy, but I like that there's no mention of like how she reacted.
I mean, I guess there are some interviews where she talks about that. The thing is, granted, sometimes actors, if they're comfortable with each other and they usually tell each other first, then things happen naturally, especially in intimate scenes.
But I feel like in that time, those conversations were not happening.
Probably not. But maybe it did a little bit. I don't know. We don't know that. There might be an interview with her out there somewhere talking more about that. But granted, they're a much more disturbing and problematic stuff out there in that in the time frame. There was a possible sequel. Charles Webb wrote a sequel to the original novel titled Homeschool, but initially refused to publish it in its entirety because of a contract he signed in 1960. When he sold the film rights to The Graduate, he surrendered the rights to any sequels. So if he were to publish Homeschool, the French media company that owns the rights to The Graduate, Canal Plus, would be able to adapt it for a screen without his permission. Extracts of Homeschool were printed in the Times, and Webb told the newspaper that it was possible that he would find a publisher for the full text provided he could retrieve the film rights using French copyright law. And in 2006, the Times reported Webb has signed a publishing deal for Homeschool with Random House, which he hoped would enable him to instruct French lawyers to attempt to retrieve his rights. And the novel was published in Britain in 2007. So if you're interested if you've seen the movie and if you're interested in a sequel, then you can read Homeschool, which is published since 2007. I did not know that, for example. I think that's it. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Again, I would highly, highly recommend watching the film. It's probably streaming somewhere. I know that you can stream it on Amazon Prime here in Austria with the art house thing for 7 days trial for free. And yeah, it's I think one of those movies that one has to see at some point.
I agree.
Yeah. Let's go to movie of the week.
Movie of the week.
I mean, we watched Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, Queer, Evil Dead 2, Dirty Dancing, A Real Pain. That's it.
Ooh, that's actually hard between A Real Pain and Queer.
I would pick both of them, actually.
Yeah, it's hard.
Let's pick both.
Let's
Let's start with A Real Pain, directed by Jesse Eisenberg. Came out last year, so at the end of last year. And it's a movie about two cousins who travel to Poland to basically...
I mean, they're essentially doing like a Holocaust
tour through Poland, but then again...
with other people who have family members of surviving the Holocaust or who died in the Holocaust or they're Jewish, and they're just,
Yeah. And then they also visit their grandmother's
childhood
home.
Or the last home that she, not childhood home,
Right,
the last home that she lived in Poland.
before she escaped. So Jesse Eisenberg is the main lead, and Kieran Culkin. And then Jennifer Grey is also in it, and some other great supporting cast. And Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin.
Everyone was so good.
They were all good. And Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin, they play those two cousins. And essentially it's a road movie. So they travel through Poland, and it's about their differences, and they haven't seen each other in a while, and they stand in completely different spaces in their life. And Kieran Culkin plays this very eccentric, outgoing, loud, just talking what he's thinking about person, while Jesse Eisenberg plays kind of himself, this very anxious, reserved, kind of introverted guy. And they clash, obviously. They haven't talked in a while, and they clash, and there's some emotional stuff coming up from his past, and it's also very emotional and very serious in terms of the history of Poland and the concentration camps, and it's one of the best movies from last year.
I said this when we watched it. It might be my favorite movie.
It's such a great movie
that year.
It's such a great movie. It's so intriguing. It's sweet. It's funny. It's super sad at times,
but still very heartwarming, and still very, like, I don't know, you connect with all of the characters so easily. Like, so easily. Yeah. From the moment you meet each of them, you're like, I love these people. It's really, really well written. Yeah.
I would highly recommend you checking it out. It's still in theaters, and I think streaming in some places, or at least on VOD. Queer is the other movie. It's Luca Guadagnino, one of our favorites. Screenplay was written by Justin Kuritzkis, or whatever his name is. And it's a book by William S. Burroughs. It's set in the 1950s in Mexico City. And it's essentially, it starts off as this drama, love story, kinda, a little bit. Kinda. But it's so much more. It's like this periodic piece.
I mean, it follows a man who is gay and living in Mexico,
in like a little town.
And it just follows him a little. He's an older gentleman. Stop. He's an older gentleman, and so he very, like, right off the bat, you know, he's looking for something. You don't know if, like, what he's looking for exactly, but you know he's very lonely, and he just wants somebody to be with.
He over the course of the movie, you see that he drowns his loneliness in alcohol, drugs. He is having sex with people to just fill a void. And the movie there's so many themes in that movie. It's about being queer in the 50s. It's about being not accepted by society. That's why they live there, because in that city, a lot of people live there who are gay and who are expats or fled America.
Well, also a lot of drug addicts, because
it's easy to get there.
Be imprisoned for the drugs they were doing in the U.S. if they were caught, and in Mexico they wouldn't have. Been, so
and it's a very sweet movie where there are a lot of themes to it, but then again it's also very experimental. Like, Luca pushes the boundaries in a way where,
of all of his movies that I've seen, it is definitely the most like wild one.
It's the most experimental and non-typical Hollywood film, I would say. It feels like an art house movie where it explores a lot of themes by very disturbing imagery, but at the core of the movie is this very lonely guy played by Daniel Craig, who, you know, you feel sad for him, you love him, but at the same time you feel sad for him, because the only thing he wants is love. That's the only thing that he says that at the beginning, like, it's super clear, and then he meets this guy, and this guy is in a place in his life
he's
where
younger.
He has no fucking clue what he wants from life. So he's just traveling, he's having fun. and Daniel Craig looks for something permanent, for something that he can finally say, okay, this is it, but he doesn't get it. And yeah, it's
and he also
beautiful movie.
lets people kind of treat him like garbage simply because he so desperately wants connection, and he definitely lets people walk all over him. It's very sad. But then the movie just takes I won't give it away, but the movie just takes a very strange turn, like very unexpected turn, but still somehow works. And I don't know how he did that, because I feel like if it were any other movie, it would very easily make me like lose my interest, because I'm like, this is not what I was watching. Why is it changing? So I mean, it changes and it doesn't. Like the underlying theme is always still there, but it's still just like, okay, this is complete like 180 of what we were just watching.
It's funny because this movie feels from the beginning like there's so much there's miniatures involved, there's a lot of CG backdrops or fake backdrops, and it feels very unreal or surreal at some point, but then again very realistic in the grounded performances by the actors, but everything else surrounding them feels like a dream kind of.
And it fits so well with some of the themes of the movie.
So fucking well, right? It's such a unique movie, and for that alone, I would highly recommend seeing it, unless you have problems with gay lovemaking depicted on film. I mean, some people do. Some people feel uncomfortable.
Some people do.
And it has some graphic scenes.
I mean, most of the scenes are not graphic. There's the one scene that's like, even I mean, I wasn't uncomfortable because it doesn't bother me, but even I was taken aback because you don't see
you don't expect something like that. But like at the same time, I think that's exactly what films should do. They should push for that, because you see that with male and female, but you don't see it with male and male. You see it with female and female.
When do you see it with female and female?
I bet there are some movies out there with.
When we were watching that movie, I was like, I wish every time I watch a movie that or a series or whatever that revolves around that topic, or just their characters are either gay or lesbian or whatever.
I bet there are things.
I'm sure there are, but the mainstream movies that have to do with being gay or queer or whatever, it's always men. And it, I don't know, it would be nice to have some more representation in,
I bet we can find some,
like with lesbians or bisexuals or trans.
So people, that's it, everybody. Just a little announcement. We are going to be gone by threads. Like, we are deleting our threads simply because of things that are happening with Meta. We are going to move to Blue Skies. We already have an account there. We'll link it in the description. If you have Blue Sky, follow us there. We'll post more there. Otherwise, our website or YouTube will find things. And our Instagram still will be kind of active.
Yeah, we're not really sure how we're going to handle Instagram yet. If you have no idea what we're talking about, just read up on the new guidelines from Meta, and you'll understand why we're not wanting to take part in it. And we're not sure how we're going to do it with Instagram yet. I have a feeling it's going to be, we're not going to really post on Instagram anymore.
We will figure that out.
But we might be in our stories.
Right.
So we'll figure it out.
But you can support us by please liking, subscribing everywhere you can subscribe, and also head over to Patreon if you really want to support us there. If you like what you do. That's it.
That's it.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.